There is a hand drill hanging on a nail in my workshop right now. My father put it in my hands when I was 12 years old, and I have used it nearly every working day for 46 years. It has no cord, no battery, no charger, and it has never once quit on me. I thought about that drill last month when a young fellow stopped at my farm stand. He was maybe 30 years old with a good job and a phone full of apps that were supposed to make him faster, and he told me he was so tired he could not feel much of anything anymore. He looked like a man who had been carrying a wet hay bale uphill for 10 years. My name is Elias Yoder. I am Amish. I have worked 6 days a week since I was a boy, dawn to dark, with my hands, in every kind of weather, and I have never once felt what that young man described. Neither did my father, who worked this same ground into his 80s. Now here is the part that should make you uneasy. The reason you are worn down is not a mystery, and it is not your fault. The people selling you the cure are the same people who profit from the sickness, and the fix has been sitting in plain sight for 300 years. By the end of this, you will know exactly how we work without wearing out and what to change this weekend, and it will not cost you $1. Stay with me. Here is what most folks get wrong about being worn out. They believe it comes from working too hard, so they buy a softer chair, a faster app, a planner with gold lettering, and they wonder why they still wake up tired. But I will tell you something from a lifetime behind a plow. Hard work has never worn out a healthy man. I have stacked hay in August heat until my shirt could stand up on its own, and I slept like a stone and woke up glad. What wears a person down is not heavy work. It is work with no edges. Think about a field. A field has a fence around it. You can plow it, plant it, harvest it, and when you reach the fence line, you are done, and you know you are done. Now think about the work the English do, and forgive me, that is just what we call folks outside our community. No disrespect in it. The English carry their work in their pocket. It follows them to the supper table, into bed, onto vacation, into the room where their children are playing. There is no fence line anywhere. There is no moment in the day when a voice says, "That is enough. You have done it. You may stop now." A field with no fence is not a field. It is just open country you can wander in until you drop. That is what happened to the young man at my farm stand. He was not overworked. He was unfenced. So the principle is simple to say and hard to live, and it is this: work must have edges, every hour of it. We build 3 edges around our work, and once you see them, you will see why a man can swing a hammer for 50 years and still whistle on the way to the barn. The first edge is time. On my farm, work ends when the light ends. Not because I am lazy, but because my grandfather, who built the farmhouse I am sitting in right now, taught me that a day is a created thing with a morning and an evening, and you do not get to vote on that. We work hard from first light, and when dusk comes, the tools go back on the wall, the same nail every night, and the day is closed like a book. And one day in 7, nothing opens at all. Sunday on an Amish farm is absolute. We feed the animals because the animals did not agree to our calendar, and beyond that, no field work, no shop work, no business talk. 52 days a year, every year, for a lifetime. The English call a day like that unproductive. We call it the fence post that holds up all the others. The second edge is the task itself. Nearly everything I do in a day can be finished. A fence is mended or it is not. A row is hoed or it is not. 40 loaves come out of my wife's oven on market day, and when the 40th one is on the rack, that job is over, fully and completely over. Her work has a smell when it is done, like a kitchen at Christmas, and mine has a sound, the last gate latch clicking shut. Your hands know when a thing is finished, and something in you settles when they do. Now compare that to the inbox that refills while you empty it, the feed that never reaches the bottom, the project that rolls from quarter to quarter like a stone that never lands. The English have built a working life out of tasks that cannot be completed, and then they wonder why their minds will not sit down at night. And it is not just my opinion that unfinished work follows a person around. A business professor out in Washington State named Sophie Leroy wrote a paper about this in 2009. She found that when a person leaves one task unfinished and jumps to another, a piece of their mind stays stuck on the first one, and she called it attention residue. The English needed 2 experiments and a journal to learn that. My grandmother could have told them for free. She had a saying, "Finish the row before you look at the next one," and she said it to me 100 times before I was 10. The professors call it attention residue. We just call it finishing your chores. The third edge is the reason for the work. I do not work to climb anything. There is no ladder in my barn except the one that goes to the hayloft. I keep 11 hives of honeybees on this farm, and my wife tends about a half acre of flowers and herbs that those bees depend on, and she has firm opinions about how that yard should look, which I have learned to respect. When I work, I can see who it is for. The honey goes on my grandchildren's bread. The firewood warms the room where my family sits. Work that lands somewhere you can see does not drain a man the way work that disappears into a quarterly report drains him. The English work for a future version of themselves who is finally allowed to rest, and that fellow never seems to arrive. We work for the people at our table tonight. Now, one fenced day will not fix an unfenced life, the same way one bucket behind one shed will not clear a half-acre lot. You have to run the fence around the whole property. So here is how you scale it, and notice that none of it costs money. Pick a stopping time and treat it like dusk on my farm, a fixed line you do not argue with. Pick one day a week and close it completely. No work, no checking, no little peeks at the phone, because a gate left open 1 inch is an open gate, and every cow in the county knows it. And inside each day, work the way we plow, 1 row at a time, finished before the next one starts. If your job will not give you finishable work, build some with your own hands in the evening, a shelf, a loaf of bread, a garden bed, anything where your eyes can land on a completed thing before you sleep. Your mind needs to see finished work the way your stomach needs supper. Then there is the free habit, the one that costs nothing but attention. My grandfather walked the line of this property every Saturday with an old coffee can in his hand, picking up stray nails and bits of wire, checking the fence as he went. I asked him once why he never skipped it, and he said, "A man should look at the edges of what he keeps." That walk was how he closed his week. Every evening I do a smaller version of it. I walk the barn, set each tool on its nail, look at what got done, and name the first job for tomorrow morning. Then I shut the barn door, and here is the part that matters. The door stays shut. The day does not come into the house with me. The English would call that a shutdown ritual, and they sell courses about it now. Trust me on this. It is a 5-minute walk and a closed door, and it has been free since the beginning of the world. Now, before I tell you what all this replaces, I want to ask you something, because this only works if it leaves my farm and lands in your house. When you try a fenced evening or a closed Sunday, come back and tell me how it went in the comments, what was hard about it, what your family noticed. I go through the comments, every one of them, usually by lantern light after supper, and there is a whole community of households in there doing this same quiet work, comparing notes like neighbors over a fence. Add your voice to it. So let us talk about the second method, because edges alone are half the system. The other half is that we almost never work alone, and we never rest alone. When a barn goes up in our community, 100 hands raise it in a day, and the women cook for everyone, and the children carry water, and a job that would crush one man becomes a kind of festival. You may not have a barn raising, but you have the same principle available to you. Shared work is lighter than solitary work, and shared rest is deeper than solitary rest. A meal with neighbors on your closed day will restore you in a way that an afternoon alone with a screen never will. The English used to know this. Their grandparents had church picnics and threshing crews and front porches. That knowledge was not lost. It was traded away, and somebody collected on the trade. Which brings me to the part I promised would make you uneasy. Ask yourself why nobody famous is telling you any of this. The answer is plain arithmetic. There is no money in telling a man to stop at dark, close one day a week, finish his rows, and eat supper with his neighbors. None of that can be put in a box and sold, but there is a great deal of money in keeping him unfenced. The hustle, as they call it, is an industry now. The apps are $10 and $15 a month forever. The courses run $500 and up. The planners, the supplements, the seminars about morning routines, the fellow on your phone screen at 5 a.m. telling you that you should have been awake before him. Added up over a working life, and an unfenced man can hand over thousands upon thousands of dollars to people whose business depends on him staying tired, because a rested man with a closed barn door does not buy the cure twice a year. Nobody held a meeting and decided to bury the old way. They did not have to. The old way simply has no salesman, and a thing with no salesman disappears from the shop window even when it works. Now let me be honest with you, because honesty is the only thing I am selling, and I am not even selling that. Do not picture us as people who never get tired. We get bone tired. There are Februaries in Lancaster County when the weariness sits in this house like a relative who will not leave, and I have known men in our own community who carried heavier burdens than a fence line can fix. I am not a doctor, and if you are truly suffering, in your body or in your spirit, please sit down with somebody trained for that, a real person in a real room, and do not take your answers from an old farmer on the internet. What I am telling you is smaller and truer than a miracle. Work with edges wears a man less than work without them. That is the whole claim, and it has held up on this ground for 300 years. So here is the system in one breath. Give your work edges a stopping time each day, one closed day each week, finishable tasks done one row at a time. Walk your line each evening and shut the door behind the day. Then share your work and your rest with other people instead of carrying both alone. And this weekend, here is what I want you to do. Tonight, pick your stopping time and write it where you will see it. Tomorrow evening, take the 5-minute walk. Even if your barn is a desk in a spare room, put your tools on their nail, name tomorrow's first job, and close the door. Then take Sunday, the whole thing, and let it be a fence and not a suggestion. Total cost, $0. And next Saturday evening, you will be sitting outside in the cool of the day with the week actually behind you, genuinely behind you, maybe with a neighbor on the next chair, and you will feel a kind of quiet that no app has ever once delivered to anybody. The folks in my community already know this works. I am writing this for the folks outside it who were never told. And before you go, I will leave you with one more thread to pull. My grandmother had a rule about the supper table in this house, one single rule, and the university people are just now writing papers about why families like hers stayed so close. I will tell you that rule in the next one. The people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember.